Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Joining me today is Dana McCauley, who is CEO of the Canadian Food Innovation Network. Thanks for joining us today, Dana.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the food industry and food and beverage industry in Canada. Um, Does it surprise you that even though there's so many challenges out there for being a business owner, small business owner, there's the cost of living, there's inflation, there's tariffs now and all that. Does it surprise you that more and more you see people starting up food businesses?
No, it doesn't. I've been working with people in the food entrepreneur space since 2015, and it's very natural and very intuitive for people to come up with food business ideas because, of course, every single person every single day eats. And in a country like Canada, where so many people come from other countries, and they may have a diaspora community where they can get some of the things that they remember from home or that grandma used to make, they often still really want to develop that. So I think it's, kind of built into the human experience to think of food business ideas and into the Canadian experience as well.
I think especially the media tend to focus on the closures, right? And that here's a restaurant down the street in your local area that has shut its doors. But for every one, it seems like two or three new ones open, right?
It's true. It's true. I used to run something called Food Starter, which was Canada's first food business incubator and accelerator. And my philosophy there was that, for the hundreds of people who would come through for a tour interested in starting a food business, and we had to have a weekly tour. That's how busy, the inbound inquiries were. And that for every single, one of those folks, if I could help them to make either the decision to, go forward with a test and learn type of an attitude, or to say, oh, this is not for me, and self-select out, is always about mitigating their risk because it is a continuous wave of people coming into the space, and not all of them will make it, but all of them will learn and acquire new skills and new insights that will inform what they do, whether it's entrepreneurial or working in a business as an entrepreneur. And I think that's a really important thing to focus on, that even failure has a lot of amazing lessons.
So Dana, if somebody comes up to you and says, "I want to start a restaurant or some sort of a food business," what advice would you give them?
Know your numbers, make sure you've got product market fit, and really be ready to take on a few years of grind, because nobody is an overnight success. No idea is so perfect that it doesn't need to be communicated. And yeah, it's a special kind of a person with an appetite for risk and a real commitment and grit to succeed as an entrepreneur in any endeavor. And in the food business, maybe even a little bit more so, because there's nothing you can warehouse indefinitely in the food business. Even if you make, a dried product like, instant oatmeal, it still has a shelf life. So you've got to keep with it every single day.
Important is investing in technology in this day and age for someone embarking on this kind of entrepreneurial journey.
I don't think it's ever been more imperative to go with the most cutting edge technology. And we have this romantic idea in the food business that handmade is always best, et cetera. And there's probably something to that. I'm trained as a chef originally. I'm married to a restaurateur. I've worked in the food business for almost 30 years. And I do know that how special it is to have something that is very artisan. But the margins are so thin that, and the labor crisis is so, perpetually difficult, that having the best technology you can afford from the get-go will help you to keep more money. And, ultimately, this isn't, for most people, starting a business is not in the realm of being a hobby. It is about, making money for yourself and for your employees, and having the most margin you can, the most agility you can, being as productive as you can be, will give you more choices, flexibility, and ultimately help you to scale. Because Canada doesn't have a startup problem. We've got your podcast, and that's proof of the fact that, wow, we have lots of entrepreneurs. There's a market for what you're doing, but we do have a scale up problem. And a lot of that is rooted in the fact that businesses start and they don't have the technical, capability of scaling in some cases, or even if they do have that technical capability, it's not up to date enough that it's really serving them and helping them to be more competitive. And being more competitive is, in such a crowded space, is extremely important.
Hmm. And actually leads me to a question about customer service. And is this something that, say restaurants, food service places tend to forget the importance of, right? I had a recent bad experience at a place that I was looking forward to going to, and you know what? It didn't matter what the prices were or what the food was like. The service was atrocious, and that's it. Never going there again. Like, do restaurants and food service places need to focus more and more on that?
I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, I've always said, if you can read, you can cook, right? So almost anything you can get at a restaurant, if you put in the time and you source the ingredients and you find the best technique, you can duplicate that at home. What you can't duplicate is ambiance and feeling cared for and feeling welcome. And I know for me, being a chef myself and being married to a chef, we still go out to eat, but it's exactly for what you said, for that service and for that convenience. So I do think that, the service part of the word food service should be very much paid attention to.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is just, we talk about investing in technology, but what about investing in the community? How important is community support, whether it's in partnerships or in funding to launch your business?
I think community and CFIN, we have our Yodel community, which is an online space where anybody who's in food innovation, sorry, pardon me, getting over a cold, anybody in food innovation can come there and, explore ideas, find partners, and, ask questions. And what, community is a two-way street. And I think that there's a really interesting thing, particularly in B2C spaces like branded products and food service, where you can stand for something and you can be political to a certain extent, but if you go too far, you can really divide your market. And that's a big mistake. And I'll give you a real life example. Last week, my husband went to, just a regular, sort of diner, fry up style breakfast restaurant, independently owned, just a 5 minute drive from where we live. And the newspaper was there, as it often is in those kinds of places. And he opened it up and was leafing through while he was eating his eggs and bacon. And the owner, obviously not a fan of the government in place, had X'd out the faces of every liberal and written slavos on the paper. Like you can imagine the things you've seen in the Freedom Trucker convoy and all those things. And that really turned my husband off, not because he necessarily is a dyed-in-the-wool liberal himself, but just because it was very off-putting, and it didn't feel like a welcome space. And he came home that night and he told me, he goes like, I can't go back there. Like it's just it's too charged. So, I think the businesses that do really well are the ones who have, they make a statement about, how they support particular charities. Maybe they, get involved with certain things. But I think you should always try publicly, and you can have your own personal beliefs, of course, but publicly you should try to get into big tent type of things like we support hunger, we support, getting people out of childhood poverty. We support, a safe community, things that everyone, regardless of their partisan stripes, can get behind.
Mhm. Tell me a little bit about the Food Innovation Network.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked. We're really proud of what we've accomplished. We'll be four on April 1st. And in that time, we've created an amazing community of over 6,500 individuals working in food innovation in Canada. We've invested about $20 million of Government of Canada money into projects that de-risk technologies that businesses can use to be more competitive. And we are just, I guess 2 or 3 steps into a 100-kilometer journey. We really think that what we're doing is breaking down innovation barriers and helping to grow Canada's GDP in the food sector. And anybody who's interested can join us. It's free to be a member. We're like the park. We want everyone there sharing and forming a community.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Dana, for joining us today.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for great questions. I really enjoyed our chat.
All right, super. That was Dana McCauley, who is CEO of the Canadian Food Innovation Network. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Thanks for joining us today.